Setting a goal makes you less likely to achieve it, not more. Less. You write it down, you feel the rush, you tell a friend, and then somehow, mysteriously, you do less than you did before you set the goal at all. And the people who understand exactly why this happens are quietly outperforming everyone around them, not because they're more disciplined, but because they stopped falling for a trick their own brain was playing on them. By the time we're done here, you'll see why the moment of goal setting itself, that hopeful, motivated moment, is actually the most dangerous part of the whole process. Psychologists have a name for the mechanism, and once you hear it, you won't be able to unsee it anywhere.
Here's the first thing to understand. The excitement you feel after setting a big goal is real. It's neurologically real. Your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical tied to reward and motivation. But here's what most people don't realize. That dopamine isn't responding to the future achievement. It's responding to the idea of the achievement, the mental image of the finished thing. And once your brain gets that hit, something shifts. A 2009 study from New York University found that people who told others about their intentions to achieve a goal were significantly less likely to follow through than people who kept quiet. Not slightly less likely, significantly. Because the social acknowledgement, the nod, the congratulation, the wow, that's amazing, gave the brain a taste of the reward before any work was done. The goal felt socially real, and the motivation drained out almost immediately after. But that's only half the story, because what's happening neurologically goes even deeper than dopamine. The neurological part goes like this. Your brain doesn't draw a hard line between imagining an action and doing it. When you vividly picture yourself running every morning or finishing the novel or launching the business, the same neural pathways involved in actually doing those things get activated. Not fully, but enough. Enough for your brain to begin treating the imagined version as partial evidence of the real version. Neuroscientist Gabrielle Eddington spent over 20 years studying this exact phenomenon. She called it mental contrasting, and what she found flipped the conventional wisdom about positive visualization entirely. People who visualized success in vivid detail actually performed worse on subsequent tasks than people who thought about obstacles. The dreamers underperformed the realists every time. Because the brain, after a good visualization session, registers a kind of pre-completion. It has already started cashing in the reward. And a brain that feels like it's already partially succeeded has less urgency to push forward. Stay with me, because this pre-completion effect has a name, and it explains something even stranger about what happens to your identity when you set a goal.
Pre-completion is real, but there's a second mechanism running in parallel, and this one is stranger. When you set a meaningful goal, you don't just plan a behavior, you adopt an identity. You stop being a person who wants to write a book and start being a writer. You stop being a person who wants to get fit and start being someone who trains. That shift feels motivating, and in the short term, it is. But here's where it gets interesting. Once the identity is in place, the goal, the actual behavioral goal, becomes almost redundant. The identity is doing the psychological work that the goal was supposed to do. You feel like a writer without writing. You feel like an entrepreneur without building anything. This isn't laziness, it's identity substitution. The label replaced the labor. Psychologist Roy Baumeister has documented how people consistently use self-concept markers, the gym bag, the new notebook, the domain name they just bought, as evidence of who they are, not what they've done. The symbol stands in for the action, and your brain accepts it. The really uncomfortable part? The more emotionally meaningful the goal, the worse this effect gets. So the identity is in place. The brain has pre-completed a version of the goal. And now something else kicks in, the illusion of progress. This is where things get painfully specific. Think about Marcus, a 31-year-old graphic designer who decided to start a freelance business. He bought the domain name, he redesigned his portfolio, he read 4 books on entrepreneurship, he watched hours of content about pricing and client management. 6 months later, he had 0 clients. Not because he lacked skill, not because the market wasn't there, but because every preparation step felt like forward motion. Each one triggered a small dopamine reward. Each one reinforced the identity, I am a freelance designer. And the brain, receiving those rewards, quietly reduced the urgency to do the one thing that actually mattered: reach out to potential clients. This is known in behavioral psychology as pseudo-progress, action that resembles the goal but doesn't constitute it. And research from the University of Chicago found that people given credit for partial completion of a goal actually slowed down their effort compared to people who received no credit at all. Progress, paradoxically, kills momentum. But here's the most counterintuitive part, and this is the thing the intro was building toward.
This is it, the mechanism that ties everything together. It's called symbolic self-completion, and it was first described by psychologist Robert Wickland and his colleague Peter Gallwitzer in 1982, the same Gallwitzer from the NYU study. The theory goes like this. When a person is committed to a self-defining goal, becoming a doctor, a novelist, a business owner, they experience a kind of incompleteness, a gap between who they are and who they want to be. That tension is uncomfortable, so the mind looks for symbols, evidence that the gap is closing. Certificates, business cards, gym memberships, journal entries, Instagram posts about the journey. Every symbol acquired temporarily relieves the tension. The incompleteness shrinks, and with it, the drive to act. Here's the darkest version of this finding. Wickland and Gallwitzer ran experiments where participants who were working toward a goal were either allowed to tell others about their progress or were not. The ones who told others, who got the social acknowledgement, who had their identity confirmed, immediately reduced their effort. Not gradually, immediately. The acknowledgement itself was the symbolic completion. The story they told about themselves became a substitute for the story they were supposed to be living. And this is why the usual advice, visualize your success, tell people your goals, make it your identity, can actively work against you. Now you can see why most goal-setting advice doesn't just fail, it actively accelerates the problem. Make it your identity. That's symbolic completion bait. Visualize your success. That's pre-completion bait. Tell people your goals for accountability. That, according to Gallwitzer's own research, is the fastest route to reduced effort. Every piece of advice designed to make the goal feel more real to you is also making it feel more complete. And a completed goal doesn't need to be pursued. This is why the productivity influencer who has 17 morning routine videos has not necessarily built the company they keep talking about. The content about the goal has substituted for the goal. This is not a personal failure. This is a structural feature of how the goal-setting brain works under social conditions. The brain evolved to care about status and social identity, not output. And in an environment where you can get social confirmation of an identity without doing the work to earn it, the brain will take that shortcut every single time. So what actually works? The answer isn't more discipline, and it's probably not what you'd expect.
What works is almost the opposite of everything you've been told. First, keep the goal private. Gallwitzer's research is clear. Unacknowledged intentions have more motivational pull than socially confirmed ones because the incompleteness remains active, the gap stays open, the drive stays alive. Second, don't adopt the identity, interrogate the behavior. Instead of becoming a writer, ask, what does a writing session look like today? Instead of becoming a fitness person, ask, what am I lifting this week? The identity is a narrative, the behavior is a fact. Facts build towards something. Narratives substitute for it. Third, and this one is subtle, engineer incompleteness deliberately. Hemingway reportedly stopped writing every day mid-sentence, not at the end of a chapter, mid-sentence, so that when he returned, the loop was still open, the brain still had work to do. Incompleteness is motivationally active, completion is motivationally dead. And the fourth thing? Stop measuring yourself against the finished version. Measure the delta, the gap between where you were last week and where you are now, not because that's more encouraging, but because it keeps the goal functionally real instead of symbolically complete. The brain needs an open loop to keep moving. Give it one. Go back to the beginning. That excited feeling you get right after setting a big goal, now you know exactly what it is. It's a reward your brain gave you in advance, a symbolic down payment on a future that hasn't been built yet. It feels like motivation. It functions like sedation. And all the things society tells you to do, announce your goals, visualize the finish line, become the person you want to be, are all, in different ways, feeding the substitution engine. They make the goal feel more complete before any real completion has happened. But knowing this doesn't mean you stop setting goals. It means you stop giving your brain the premature reward it's looking for. You hold the gap open. You stay in the tension of incompleteness. Because that tension, it's not a problem to solve. It's the engine itself. The people who actually cross the finish line aren't more disciplined. They're just better at staying uncomfortable for longer. And now you understand exactly why.
If this changed the way you're looking at that goal you've been carrying around, then subscribe, because this channel exists for exactly that. Not tips, not routines, but the actual mechanisms underneath behavior, the thing most people never bother to look at. New videos go up regularly, and they all follow the same principle. Understand the system, and you stop fighting it from the wrong angle. One last thing. The next time you feel that rush after writing down a goal, don't kill it. Don't chase it. Just notice it. Name it. And then quietly, without telling anyone, start.